Coming up on American Morning, Danger Zone. It's the most vulnerable part of your home, and ignoring it could be devastating.
Lose the roof, you lose the contents of the house, everything is gone.
The simple fix that could help you survive a storm. Ahead on American Morning.
And it's 6 minutes to the top of the hour. Former White House Press Secretary Scott McClellan's book is making noise this morning on the campaign trail. McClellan blasts his former boss in his new memoir, saying that he was part of an administration that misled America about the war in Iraq. Here's what Hillary Clinton and John McCain had to say about that.
I have not seen the book nor the comments, but I know why I supported it, because I believe that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, as did every intelligence agency in the world and every assessment.
In this book, this young man essentially apologizes for having been part of misleading America for 3 years. He talks about how difficult it was that our president and those working with him didn't either level with the American people or didn't change course when circumstances demanded it.
The president's supporters are now asking if McClellan held these opinions. Why didn't he speak up when he was working in the White House?
Scott McClellan, with a big tell-all book, a guy that never voiced one complaint, never resigned in protest, never told anybody how he felt. What you have here is many things, but among them, a classic illustration of what I always say, of how Republicans/conservatives end up going to Washington, and the Washington political and social culture just swallows them up.
So let's talk a little bit more about all of this, and we bring in Bruce Weinstein. He is the ethics guy for BusinessWeek.com. It's good to see you this morning.
You too, John.
Let's take a look at what Dana Perino had to say about all of this yesterday. Quote, Scott, we now know, is disgruntled about his experience at the White House. For those of us who fully supported him before, during and after he was press secretary, we are puzzled. It is sad. This is not the Scott we know. Dana Perino is the current White House press secretary, took over from Tony Snow, who took over from Scott McClellan. The question is, a tell-all book like this, so harsh on the president, ethically, is he on solid ground releasing it while President Bush is still in office?
Yes, he is. He not only had a right to write this book, he had an ethical obligation, because there is no statute of limitations on telling the truth. Yes, it would have been better had he spoken up earlier. And yes, it's important to be loyal. But it's much more important to tell the truth, especially when lives are at stake, as it is the case here.
Yeah, as we saw, and I saw because I was a White House correspondent during his tenure, from Ari Fleischer, the transition through to Scott McClellan. He stood up there at the podium when we were hammering him about the Iraq war, faithfully defending it. And now here's what he's saying about all of that. Quote, what I do know is that war should only be waged when necessary, and the Iraq war was not necessary.
Well, we can understand why he would be reluctant to have spoken up then. I mean, he probably would have lost his job. It's very difficult to stand up. I'm not excusing it. I'm just trying to explain or understand why he might have done this. But, you know, let's face it, this is not a partisan issue, and the same would have been the case had Jody Powell from the Carter administration written such a tell-all book, or D.D. Myers from the Clinton administration. Ethics is the ultimate nonpartisan issue, and there is no statute of limitations on telling the truth. We ought to speak truth to power when we can, if we're in a position to do so.
As recently as April of 2006, he was still defending the Iraq war,
Yes.
even when, according to this book, he held those opinions. Let's listen to what he said.
There were people that were out there making irresponsible accusations that intelligence was manipulated or that intelligence was misused. There's been no evidence to back that up whatsoever.
Now he's saying that the president's advisors, quote, confused the propaganda campaign with the high level of candor and honesty so fundamentally needed to build and then sustain public support during a time of war. Well, Bruce, you said that he wanted to keep his job, but ethically, can you hide behind the cover of, I like my job, food is expensive, I've got a mortgage to pay for, so I'm going to toe the party line?
There's no question that it would have been much better ethically for him to have spoken up earlier. But, you know, we make mistakes. We sometimes don't rise to the challenges we should, but that doesn't mean that it's never a possibility of rising to the challenge. You know, it's never too late to right a wrong. That is the lesson here. Of course, what these clips show is that we have to be careful what we say on the air, because those words may come back to haunt us.
Right, but what about credibility? And this is the point that his White House colleagues, former members of the administration, current members of the administration, are really hammering him on, that he didn't say any of this before, so why is he saying it now?
Actually, if you look at what most of the critics are saying, they're attacking his motivation, not the truth content of what he's saying. Most of the people that I've heard on CNN in the last 24 hours have talked about, well, he's disgruntled, he's doing this for the money. But, you know, you and I make a living, and it doesn't diminish the integrity of what we're doing. People need to make a living, and, you know, he's writing a book. He may make money from that. But nevertheless, he's standing up for what he believes is true. And let's look at the truth content of what he's saying, not the motivations for why he might be doing it.
Bottom line, he's on solid ground, you think?
Solid ground ethically.
Bruce Weinstein, the ethics guy for BusinessWeek.com. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.